The Secrets of the Hebrew Letters. We're in a series. We're on our fourth class. This is CHET, letter CHET, which is number 8, and letter TET, which is number 9. But we know that when you plug into the language of Hebrew, we believe that that's a language through which the world was created. Okay? Language, according to the Jewish people, is the source of all things created. It's through the human being's power of speech that we can create things, we can kill things, we can bring life, we can take away life. Human beings are able to bring so many lives into the world and also take away, like Hitler didn't do it with his hands, he did it with his mouth. Human beings can take themselves to the moon and back. There's no other animals that can do that because the humans have the power of speech. So we believe that when we use the power of speech, if we know the language, according to Jewish tradition, the way that the world was created was through God's speech. And if we plug into that language, we are plugging into the code of the universe. Okay? This is pretty amazing. And let's just go over what we spoke about till now. So I know that there's a lot of people that are new to the class so far. We are on up to Zion. This is what we've done till now, and we spoke about many interesting things. But let me just go quickly through it. So Aleph represents God, because Aleph is 1, right? It's 1, and you see that the letter Aleph, which is there in the corner, it goes in all directions. That letter here is the sign of infinity, going in all directions. Also, Aleph has a Yud, and a Vav. It has a Yud, and a Vav, which means 26, and it has a Yud, an upper world, a lower world, and in between, right? The finite world that we're in, and in between. So God is infinite. He's not a person like me and you. It's an infinite being, and that's what Aleph represents. Okay? He brought forth a finite creation, which is Bet. Bet is after Aleph, and it's closed off from Aleph. You can't, once you're in a finite world, you can't see before Aleph. You can't see before Bet. That's what we spoke about till now. And we spoke about how when you're in a finite reality, then you have to have what we call mitosis. Whenever things are finite, like the physical world, they die. They don't last forever. We are in a physical world, and therefore it doesn't last forever. So therefore, Bet is also the letter of bracha, blessing. That within anything that's finite, it has to be blessed. God doesn't need to bless himself or the infinity, but it needs to bless this world that it can continue to live. And that's why we have something called mitosis. Too much blessing is not good. If you have too much growth in production of cells in your body, then what happens? You get cancer. So too much bracha in life is also not good. It's dangerous, it kills you. And that's how the finite creation. So Bet means the finite world, but also it means bracha, blessing. In that finite world, it needs to keep reproducing itself. So straight away in creation, we had what we call bracha. And the whole purpose of this creation was Gimel and Dalet. Gimel is like a person that's walking and he's going to give. Gimel means to give. Okay, the purpose of creation is to give and take. There are people that need, that are lacking, which sometimes we ask why. Well, I'll tell you why. So that people can give. So we can have free will and give. If no one's lacking, then there's no need to give. There's no choice to give. You can't give. You don't need to. You can't become great. Greatness is defined, unfortunately, by those that are weak. Because if you help them, then you become great. Now, it's not that we take advantage of the fact that people are vulnerable or in pain, but that's how greatness comes. So God created this world where everything is give and take, and everything is give and take. The male-female energy is in all matter, everything. Everything is give and take. So that's Gimel and Daled. That's the purpose of the humanity of the world. And this creative potential was then actualized much like a birth. That's Hey. Hey is not just theory, but actually bringing it out into reality. So Hey represents like a pregnancy. Not everything comes straight away. You have give and take. Then there's a pregnancy, but then there's a birth later on. That's when things come into reality. So Hey represents bringing things into reality. Then we spoke about how once you have the physical reality, whenever you have physical matter, it needs to be interconnected. There's this force that connects all physical matter together. That's called Vav. Vav is a connecting letter. Ani, Ata, I and you. Ani, Veshira, Yaakov, Veshira. Right? Whenever you add Vav before a word, it's a connecting letter. These are a lot of classes. If you want any of the classes that we've done till now, each letter takes every 2 letters takes an hour at least. I'm hoping to do Chet and Tet today, but I don't think I'll do it today because we started late. But you could see that Vav represents connecting things. And that's because the physical world, without understanding, material matter is all interconnected. This world, we literally, by science, we hold of this value that everything is interconnected to each other. You have things, you can't learn scientific areas alone in specific areas. You need to learn multiple areas because we believe everything's interconnected. So that's Vav. Matter has the power of interconnection, and that's the 6 directions of all things on earth. It holds the capacity through compassion to connect and unify all of its elements. That's Vav. Then, in Vav, 6 days of the week, you have the 7th day, which is the spiritual force. You have electrons, and you have in the middle the neutron, right? So in everything that exists, according to Jewish tradition, this thing that says Netflix on it, right? It has in it, and YouTube, it has in it a spiritual energy behind it. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist. So besides for the fact that it's created, and it's interconnected, it's being held as one piece through this letter Vav, it has in it Zayin also. Not just animals and human beings have a soul in them, even matter has what we call a nefesh. It has a ruach banefesh. It has in the chomer itself, it actually has a certain element of godly soul in it. Okay, we believe that even matter has a godly soul in it, very, very small in comparison to the human being, which we'll talk about. So that's Vav. Vav is physical matter. Zayin is the spiritual in the matter, the movement, the spiritual in physical matter. Like you have 6 days of the week, and the 7th day you have Shabbat. 7 is a big number in Judaism. It represents bringing spiritual into the physical. And this is the driving force behind movement and vitality in the world. Okay, so Vav and Zayin represent the physical world and the spiritual in the physical. And we are now at Chet, letter Chet. Okay? Anyone know a word that starts with Chet? Chalom, dream. Chesed, kindness. Chaval is with a Chet. Yes? Chevel is a string, connection. Yeah, well, Hashem depends how you pronounce it. If you're American, maybe it's Hashem. Okay, anyway, go on. Yeah, oops. Chai, Chaim. Okay, so the letter Chet, we're going to define what that means. The letter Chet represents life, Chaim, and Chen, grace. Now listen to this. You must admit that although there are many living things on earth, we said that even this has a living force behind it. Even matter, simple thing, domem, simple things like a stone, a piece of wood, all of this has godly force in it. But then we said that even an animal has a higher level of a spiritual reality in it, and the human being, which has the power of speech, which is a very godly power, has an above nature reality. Life, by definition, means, according to Jewish teaching, Chaim is really when you have free will. When you have the ability, life means that you have the ability to be above nature completely. That's when you're really alive. Right? When do you know if a fish is alive in the water? When it goes against the flow. If it's going against the flow, that's a whole new level. So only the human being can actually go against his physical nature, go against his intuition, and actually do something for the greater good. Okay? So that's called Chaim. Chaim comes from the letter Chet, which means above nature completely. And that's specifically to do with the human soul, the soul in the human being. We are considered as supreme beings. The spiritual that is above nature and it represents the power of bechira, free will. Okay? The fact that you have a very high elevated soul means that you have free will. You can choose. If an animal, let's say a shark, attacks a human being, will we be angry with it? Will we say, take him to court? How dare he kill that human? Will we say that? Or will we say nothing? Will we even look for the shark that killed the human? Probably not. Right? If a shark kills a human being, we will not say anything. You know why? Because we don't expect any greater from the shark. But if a human being kills another human being, we take him to court or straight to prison, depends on what the situation was. Okay? But if you are a person with free will, with choice, then we hold you accountable. If you could choose good over bad, that means you have a higher soul that's above your natural instinct. You know why the shark attacks the human being? Because he has instinct. He saw something. He thought it was a fish. That's your fault for looking like a fish or whatever. He thought it was a fish and whoa, and went and attacked it. Was it the fish's? Was it its fault? No. Is it the fault of the shark? No. Why? Because he's working from instinct. But the human being, he has the ability to choose good over bad. That's the higher elevated part in you called the CHET, the soul. Okay, so you have Vav, which is physical. 7 is the spiritual in all physical matter, even in trees and animals. And then you have your soul that's in you, that's hidden in the letter CHET. Yes, you were going to ask a question?
Yeah, so your example works well with the shark, but what with the dog? Because I know these days, if a dog bites someone, especially if he kills someone, usually in our society we put him down.
Right, and in Jewish society also. Why? Because the owner, it's true, but since the owner bought it and is responsible for it, and is walking around the street with it, he is accountable for the action of the dog and must be put down because you're living with that dog. Let me ask you a better question. If a guy was walking down the street with a lion, would we say kill the lion, or would we take the guy that was walking with a lion and say, you've got to go to prison? You were accountable absolutely for the murder of that human being.
Right. Strict liability.
Huh?
It's called strict liability.
Okay, there you go. Here's a lawyer in the house.
But
Why is the lion different? I'll tell you why the lion is different. Because you shouldn't have put it in a domestic place.
Exactly.
Okay? But when you own an animal that's domesticated, that should be safe, and then it went and did something dangerous, if we don't put that dog down, then all dogs are going to be we are responsible for all dogs in our neighborhood. There's a lot of logic that goes behind this, but this is actually a Jewish concept. Okay, in Judaism, we actually say that if you have a domesticated animal, people always used to live with animals, not just the dog. They actually had cows, they had donkeys, everyone. So that means that there's a lot of laws in the Talmud all about animals that go and cause damage. And the answer to your question is, if it's to do with your responsibility, then the dog is responsible as well and would have to be put down. Okay? But it's a great question. So, it is a great question. Okay, now, when a person is alive, you see the soul being expressed. That's chayim. Okay? When they are alive, know this. When someone's down, where does he want to be? In bed. It's almost like death. When someone's down, he wants to sleep. I hate life. What does he not want? What does that person not want? Doesn't want his soul to be expressed. I don't feel my soul. I feel like I'm not living to my fullest potential. I feel just body, and just body pulls you down. When you eat a lot, what happens? You feel like you want to get down. Anything that's to do with absorbing a lot of physical, once you have absorbed that, it brings you down. Gravity pulls you down. It's all material, then it pulls you down. If you are happy after you do something, know that that's your soul speaking, not your body. Okay? If you are unhappy after you've done something, then that means it's your body speaking and it didn't feed your neshama. Okay? Your free will is a proof of an elevated soul that is not satisfied with instincts. That's why you have a chet in bechira. Why do you have bet in bechira? Why is the first, this means choice. Why is the first letter, if chet represents the higher elevated soul which can choose between good and bad, why isn't the first letter of this word chet? What does bet mean? What did we say bet is? Number? right? It means finite, and it means also number 2, right? We said it's 2. Aleph is 1, Bet is 2. So what's 2 when it comes to free will? What's the number 2 to do with free will?
Yes or no choice.
Yes, it's a choice between yes and no. So Bechira means a choice between yes and no, and Chet, a higher elevated being that's here in the situation. We have a soul that's being able to choose between yes and no. An animal can't make that choice, okay? The soul in you has the power to influence the action of your physical self. We said Vav is the physical body, Zayin is the movement, and your movement in your body can be either to do good or to do bad. And Chet is the elevated soul in you that pushes you to channel the moves that you make for good, okay? Does this make sense so far? Okay, how do you say 8 in Hebrew? Shmone. Does anyone heard that before? Yeah, sounds good? Okay, look, Shmone makes the letters. Forget these lines, what does that make? Neshama, soul. Isn't that cool? Shmone is 8, but it also makes the letters of Neshama. Didn't I tell you that Chet represents the elevated part on you? Shmone means Neshama. Okay, we'll explain what Neshama is here in a second. I put these lines for a reason, because in Neshama, what influences you is your Shem, your name. That's your essence. In Hebrew, the word Shem means, I love you, brother. In Hebrew, the name Shem means, the word Shem means that your essence, your name is your real, it defines who you really are. Remember, the Jewish people are all about words and how we describe things. So your name tells me who you really are. And Nun and Hey, Nun is how many? Does anyone know how much is Nun? Let's go this way. Does anyone know what Hey is? How much? 5. Aleph is 1, Bet is 2, Gimel is 3, Dalet is 4. Hey is, I can't say it because I can't do it with my hand because I was just trying. Right, Hey is 5. Okay, Nun is 50. Okay? Now, it's basically, Nun means the highest level of greatness that a person can get to. In Kabbalah, there are 50 levels of Tahara, Kedusha, 50 levels of purity. The highest level of purity is Nun, 50. And when you come into this world, it's basically you're being brought, with your highest inner self, is being brought down into a very physical world. It's broken down. So Nun and Hey represents the higher elevated soul coming down into the physical world. And that's your name in you. Okay? But what does Mishnah mean? Does anyone know? Do you know what this word is? What's Mishnah? It's also Neshamat, the same letters. You see, all these letters make Shmone. Shin, Mem, Nun, Hey, 8. Shin, Mem, Nun, Hey, 8. Shin, Mem, Nun, Hey. Right? They all make Shmone. Mishnah is
Change?
Okay, it is Leshanen means to go over, but in this context it actually means the oral Torah. The oral Judaism, you have the written Torah, which we believe comes from God, and the oral Torah, which is what explains the words of the Torah. And also from God, but it's all never written down on paper. It's all meant to be an elevated idea. It's meant to be something that we were to write it down originally. It's meant to represent the neshama. Originally, a Jew would wear tefillin all day, a talit full of holiness, a talit all day. You want to go to the clubs? Okay, go with your tefillin and talit. You try that one for a day, right? You would be very, very elevated. But we're not on that level anymore. That's how we used to be. And a person would be a walking Torah. He would be a Jew. You'd see him encyclopedic knowledge. From a young age, he was taught the words of Torah off by heart. And Mishnah. Mishnah is the oral Torah. Oral means through your mouth, it's elevated. It was meant to be something that deeply connects to your soul. That's why Mishnah is said when someone passes away, whenever someone passes away, there's a mitzvah to learn Mishnah for the neshama. Same letters. Okay, we learn some words of Mishnah for the neshama. Okay. How free will is hidden in the letter Chet? Okay, how is the letter Chet hiding the word free will? So the letter Chet can have two meanings. It is spelled, this is written in the book of Otiyot de Rabbi Akiva, the book of Rabbi Akiva, who says like this: the word chet can be spelled chet taf, which means to be pure and free. To be chet me Elokim, free with God, meaning not from God, but with God. If it is spelled chet tet aleph, then it's translated as a sin. Okay, so the word chet can have two meanings. It can either mean free, or it can mean sin. Why? What does sin mean? We don't like that word. What does it really mean? When someone does something wrong, what's he doing? When someone does something good, what's he doing? Do you know what the word good really means in Judaism? Anyone know what the word good is? That's going to be letter tet. But does anyone know what that word means? Anyone know what it is in Hebrew? What's good in Hebrew?
Tov.
Tov. Do you know what tov means? Takin. It means to fill your purpose. When God created the universe, He created light. Vayar Elohim et kol asher asa v'hineh tov me'od. God saw everything He did and He said it was very good. What does it mean it's good? What does that mean? God saw it's good, like an infinite being sees. What does it mean good? Do you know what good means? Fills its purpose. Do you know what bad means? Brokenness. Bad comes from the word ra, which means ra'ua, broken, shaken. If you want to be good, you're filling your purpose. Bad means you are broken in your purpose, not yet fulfilling your purpose. Okay? So, chet means to miss, actually. Mahti. Lahti means to miss. That's the root of the word of chet, which means to miss something. What are you missing out? This is how Judaism should be looked at. When I miss out on Judaism, when I don't do a Jewish thing that I should be, do you know what? I'm not a bad Jew. I'm missing out. It's the ultimate FOMO situation, right? I'm missing out. Shabbat, if I don't do it, I'm missing out. It's a sin. That's the translation we give it. But really, on a deeper level, it means you're missing out on fulfilling your bigger purpose. Okay, so that's the letter chet. Okay, who is a strong person? Oh. Who is a strong person? Anyone know? In Judaism, what does strength mean? A guy that has more muscle than someone else? More tissues in your body? What makes you strong? Huh? What makes you a strong person? Ezehu Gibor. Who's a strong person?
One who conquers his evil inclination.
Yes, someone who can overcome his evil inclination. Strength is not defined by how much muscle you have, by what kind of six-pack you have, what kind of body you have. You know what? Sometimes that's an expression of an inner weakness. Not always, but sometimes. There's something bothering you inside and you feel, I need to have more muscle. I need to have a six-pack. I need to look bigger, more like a monkey. So that way, I will have more confidence, right? So sometimes, working out, don't get me wrong, Judaism's not against being healthy. We are very for being healthy. I know it doesn't look like it sometimes. But we are very into being healthy. That's a ushmatem ma'od nafshotechem. You should look after yourself. But there is no value in Judaism to look like a monkey. Okay, so who's a strong person? Why? Is that strength? It's not strength. You know, a bullet can take, in 1 second, a bullet can take someone down with lots of muscle. Sometimes being overweight doesn't help you. If you're stuck in the water and a lot of muscle makes you not able to swim properly. Oh, sometimes it doesn't help you. It holds you back. That's not my message. My point is that real strength is someone who can overcome his temptations. I'm about to scream and I hold back. I'm about to punch the person and then I held back. I was about to get in an argument and I said, it's okay. You can win, in my head, not to them. I said to him in my head, it's okay. I don't need to win every argument. Strength isn't about winning every time. Sometimes strength is in here. In fact, that's the definition of Ezehu Gibor. Who is a strong person? This is what it says in Pirkei Avot. So therefore, since when you have free will, and Chet represents your soul, the neshama, 8. Shmone, neshama, it represents the soul. It also represents anything to do with strength. Okay, because who's strong? A human being that can overcome temptations. Overcoming temptations in Judaism is like conquering an entire country. It's like conquering a city. The world says, conquer cities. That means you're strong, right? But Judaism says, no, 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 no. Overcome one temptation, you've conquered way more than somebody who is a dictator and is able to conquer land. Okay? So what's strength? All these words start with chet for this reason. Many, many words in Hebrew start with chet because they represent strength of the soul. Okay, so you have chazaka means, chazak means strength. Lachtoch means to, chituch, to cut. Charitzut, does anyone know what that means?
Yes.
What does it mean? Determined, hardworking. Chod is sharp. Chetz is an arrow. Cherev is a sword. Okay? It represents all the ideas of things that are very sharp and strong. Who is that? The human being, really. But that's why many words start with a chet. Because of that. Okay? There are emotions, also very strong emotions that express the soul. Who said chesed before? Right? Strong emotions also a lot of times start with the letter chet. Chas means to be caring. Chesed, kindness. Chemla, merciful. Chiba means an affection, a strong feeling of love. Also simcha, although it has a shin and a mem in it, we'll speak why later when we get to shin, but it has a chet. Hanacha, which is the opposite, is where someone sighs like, oh. So the two expressions of strong emotions, all letters that have very strong emotions, have a chet in it. Okay, let's move on. This is the first time the word chet is in the Torah, and that has significance. In Judaism, every time you look and you say, where is it first written in the Torah? That's where you learn the idea of the soul. Interesting. What does it say? The earth was emptied and deserted, and darkness. Choshech means dark. What did I just say? Choshech is darkness. How does darkness represent the soul? What's going on over here? Does anyone know? On earth, how is it that darkness represents the soul? Are you with me, or am I just talking through?
The lights up above.
Emptiness?
Why does the soul feel empty? Lights above? What do you mean? Oh, the light is not here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lack of light, yes.
Okay, so very good, we're getting there. The soul on earth is hidden in the word choshech, darkness, because through darkness, it's only because of darkness you express your soul. It's only because there is darkness that you can actually bring out your soul light in this world. If there was no darkness, similar to what we said before, if there was no challenge, if there was no difficulties, then there would be no greatness. The fact that you choose is because of darkness, okay? This world is called a world of darkness. It says, Tashet choshech v'hi laila. God, you brought darkness and it was night. What does that mean? It means, God, you created the world. Okay, our rabbis say that this world is compared to darkness, not because it's dark and bad, but because all of the challenges that happen in it is where you are able to bring out your soul. What does that tell you about challenges? What should that tell you about difficulties and challenges?
Expect them.
Right, well, don't love them, but know that that's your ticket to greatness. Your darkness is the ticket to bringing out your soul. Every time you were challenged, every time someone spoke to you badly, every time you didn't have it easy in work, whenever you are facing darkness, that is your ticket to expressing your soul. The chet, the first word that expresses your soul, is in the word darkness. And that's what our rabbis teach us. Okay. Next. Oh, notice, this is how you write a chet in the Torah. There's two opinions. What's that letter? It's a zayin. Here's a vav, you're right. And another zayin. And you put them next to each other. This is how you write chet in the Torah. Zayin and zayin. And on top, you have a little hat. That's how you write in the Torah. Why? Do you know why? Because we said that zayin represents also movement. It represents zuz, zuzah. All about kle zayin. All about movement. Zera, seed, looks like a Zayin. Okay? Zayin represents movement by definition. Now, look at this. If you have Zayin and Zayin on either side, you know what that represents? It represents the battle of life. The human being has movement in him. Oh, a lot of movement in you. And it's pulling you in two different directions. One direction is to do good, and the other is to do bad. Like we said, CHET is the expression of the soul. And what can you do? You can overcome them. You can overcome this battle of the fight of good versus bad, and the movement in you, and have your neshama. Your neshama can overcome all of this and overtake the challenge. Some people write it Vav and Zayin, same concept. Vav represents the physical world. Zayin represents the world with spiritual, right? And Chet represents the human being that is above. Look, it looks also like two legs and the body and the head or whatever, right? Here is the legs and there's the head. Meaning that the human being, always his neshama, his soul is always looking upwards, whilst his body is always moving in two directions. Notice how the human being alone, there are birds this way, but it's different because their body faces earth. The human being alone has two legs. The arms act as arms, not as legs in any way to walk with. And we walk with our legs. And it's different than animals. Animals have normally four legs and they're facing earth. Why? Because in Jewish teaching, animals are completely dictated by instinct. The human being is unique, that's dictated by his body and his soul. Instinct and soul. And that's why our legs can go one way or the other. We can move in one direction or the other. However, we're not kafuf, we're not bent completely over towards earth. However, animals are bent towards earth because they are working by instinct. Only instinct. Whilst human beings are standing upright, should be, anyway, not me, my back, oh, got to click there. And we want to go up, we want to jump, we want to move. Human beings have in you a higher elevated soul that wants to overcome and use his movement for good things. Okay? So that's why we have the Chet like this in the Torah. That's how you write the Chet in the Torah. Isn't that, it's good stuff, huh? You enjoying it? Okay. This is exactly what the Torah says. Lapetach chatat roves. You are not a victim of your problems. You are not a victim of your challenges, of your genes. Not in Judaism. Do you know what it says in Judaism? Lapetach chatat roves. Sin is always knocking on your door. On your door, there's always someone, it could be here also, pecking on your head and telling you, come on, do this, do that. And it's always pushing you in the wrong direction. You're an idiot. You're worthless. You're foolish. Right? And then at the door, come here, go to this party, which is not a good place to be. Or go there, which is not a good place. There's always sin knocking at the door. And its urge is towards you. I don't like the English. It's desperate to catch you. Sin is always desperate to catch you. But ve'ata timshol bo. Judaism believes you have the power to overcome and rule over it. You can rule over all of these thoughts in your head. You have an addiction to eating, you can rule over it. I'm talking to myself. You have an addiction to being angry or whatever, you can overcome it. Don't think you are a victim of your inner self, which is pulling you in the wrong direction. Ata timshol bo. You can overcome your temptations. Okay, if you notice, Hay was bringing life onto earth, we said in the past. And if you notice, Hay and Chet are similar. Hay just has a hole over here. And that means that whenever you make a mistake, whilst you're on earth, you can always fix and go back in. Whenever you fall, don't worry. Life is still, as long as you're alive, you can climb back up and go back in and fix yourself. But the neshama, the soul, which is expressed in Chet, as soon as a person dies, there is no way to fix anymore. Okay, so you can express yourself in this world through choice and everything, but once your soul, as a soul alone, without the body, a Chet only, then there's no way out, there's no way of fixing. Judaism says the only place you fix is on earth. The only place you come great is here. where you can choose between good and evil. But the minute someone dies, there's no place anymore for you to make choice. The only place you can do and fix your soul is actually in Judaism, coming back down to earth. This hole here represents reincarnation. According to Jewish teaching, most of us are reincarnations. Interesting. Okay. Chen, grace. Why does soul represent grace? Do you know what chen is? You can't, grace is not the right word. Right? When you see someone and you see their face and you're like, wow, there's something special in this person. Have you ever felt that? Someone's giving off an aura or like a great vibe. Have you ever met someone that gives off a good vibe? Right? So they give off what we call chen in Hebrew. Chen means they give favor. There's, wow, there's a good fit. Yeah, there's beauty is yofi. It's another word. There's another word called chen. I don't know how to say it in English. It's grace, charm. There's another way of saying it. The word chen comes from the word chinam, free. Actually. Why? Because if you have charm in your face, that came to you for free. You have in you free. You didn't do anything to it, but you have in you a soul, and you have certain charm in you, and people are attracted to you. They like you. Don't let those words in your head tell you that you are worthless, that you are wrong, that you have no value. If you have a soul in you, you have chen in you, you have what we call charm. Use it and believe in it. Okay? So that's the word chen, which is also a representation of, there's a physical charm that people have, but then there's also a spiritual charm, where someone really refined themselves, they worked on themselves, and you see kindness in their face. A face tells you panim. Panim, it tells you pnima. It tells you inside. The face of a person. One of the most fascinating things in photography is to take a picture of someone's face close up. Why? Because there you see all the wrinkles and you see history. You see a life that someone's been through. You see everything in their face. You can read. Without even knowing what you're seeing and what the history is, you see something. A face tells you everything. It's interesting, when someone covers their face, right, in all these riots, or even sometimes a policeman, he covers his face, you don't know who he is, it's intimidating. Because you're not able to get in to know who this person is, and it's a little intimidating. Okay? So chen, it means chinam. Okay. It says many times in Judaism that, like by Joseph, God was kind to him and he gave his favor, his grace in the eyes of the chief prisoner. When he was sent down to Egypt, Joseph was put in prison for no reason, and the chief officer of the prison loved Joseph. He liked him for no reason at all, because he had grace. He had what we call grace. He was expressing an inner beauty of his soul, and they felt it. In Judaism, throughout history, like it says in the Torah, that mora'achem v'chitchem, you'll fear and the dread, another type of fear. Chet comes from the word fear also, because when you express your soul, animals are afraid of you. Certain people around the world will be afraid of you. Don't think that when you express your soul, you are weak. In fact, the opposite. You are stronger. When someone is kind and loving and has worked on themselves, even animals will be afraid of you. And that is in Jewish history. We know the story of Daniel that was in the Gur HaArayot, the lion cage. He was thrown in and they didn't touch him. Throughout history, Joseph was thrown into a pit of snakes and scorpions. The snakes and scorpions didn't touch him. In Judaism, we believe that if someone's very, very spiritual and overcomes himself to a certain level, even in places of the most danger, they won't be touched. Okay? Your face and the way you become is even powerful enough to scare away any animal. And the truth is, animals are afraid of all humans. They see a human, they're afraid. A lot of times they attack because of the fear. But some of the biggest animals, they see a human face and they are afraid. So we should know that you have a soul elevated in you and it's felt in this world. Okay? 8 in Judaism is very, very big. We have a chain in 8. I'm just joking, that doesn't have any significance. Why is a little boy reminding us of the number 8? What's that to do with right? What's 8 to do with a young boy? On the 8th day. What happens on the 8th day? Snip, snip, right? So why do we do it on the 8th day? Well, scientifically there's a whole thing behind it, but I want to tell you something really interesting. The 8th day represents above nature. We said that 7 represents the spiritual in the physical, like Shabbat. 8 represents above, the spiritual above the physical. And that represents the Jewish people. When we get a Brit Milah, we are part of the Jewish people, and you now become an elevated, more elevated soul. Okay? So that's why we do it on the 8th day. Did you know that in Judaism, you wouldn't believe this, this is Rabbeinu Bechaye in Vayikra. I'm just quoting to make you know this. But in Judaism, we believe that the 7 notes of the musical spectrum, right? So we have 7 musical notes. In Judaism, we believe that one day, when there'll be peace in the world and Mashiach will come, there'll be an 8th note. Music will have a new dimension to it. Okay? So we actually believe in the 8th note. So 8 days of Hanukkah. Why is 8 of Hanukkah 8? Why is it 8? What did we say 8 represents? The above nature. So the 8th day of Hanukkah is the 8 days of above supernatural. We have here the tzitzit, right? We're meant to wear the tzitzit. They also have 8 strings on them. I'm getting undressed over here, a little awkward. But they have 8 strings here on the tzitzit. Why do we have 8 strings on the tzitzit? Because the tzitzit is a guard for you above nature. It's a material. It's a piece of material. But when you wear it, it looks after you. And Judaism says that this is above nature. This is not logical naturally, but this is your spiritual bulletproof vest. And it has 8 strings, and it represents, it has actually, tzitzit adds up to 600, and then you have 613 altogether. It represents the mitzvot. It's meant to remind you of all the mitzvot, and a lot of other things it does. But one of the amazing things also it does in tzitzit is that you're not actually required to wear one. We're not required to wear one. It's only if you have a 4-cornered garment, then you're meant to put these strings on top of it. Okay? When you have a 4-cornered garment, then you put strings on. Why? Because that's Judaism. I'm not meant to do it. I don't have to do it, but I'll choose to. I don't have to wear this garment, but I'll choose to. And when I choose to do Jewish, God chooses to look after me even when He doesn't have to. Okay? So that's something that's above nature. It gives me shmirah. It looks after me in a way that's above nature, and that's why we wear it. Okay? There's other things. I want to move on. I just want to tell you, I'm finish off here. So this is the story with CHET also. I thought I'll do TET tonight also, but it looks like we don't have much time. So I'll just finish off the story and then tell you what it's like if you have CHET in your name. Does anyone here have a name that begins with CHET? Chana, Chedva? Anyone? Okay. All right. So it's not an American name, English speaking name, because it's hard to say here. Okay? Try and get a Starbucks coffee with the name Chana to you. Okay. They'll say Hannah. Okay, that works. The one God brought forth a finite creation. Aleph brought through a bet. With the primary purpose of giving and receiving. What's the purpose of this world? To give and receive. And what's our goal? To be givers just like God. We are the receivers and our goal is to be givers. This creative potential was then actualized in a process resembling birth, which is hay. The material world, which is in 6 directions only, holds the capacity to connect and unify its elements through compassion. That's all Vav. Vav is physical, and miraculously everything is held together. Miraculously we have gravity. A spiritual essence was infused within all physical things. Everything has a spiritual force behind it. If you want to hear more about this, by the way, listen to the previous classes. I'm only just telling you words. Really, you need to hear the first few classes that we have on YouTube. I'll send them out again. Serving as the driving force behind all life and motion. Humanity was endowed with an elevated soul, which is CHET. So besides for the fact that everything has a spiritual force in it, the humans have an elevated human soul in it. And that's chet. So vav is the physical, zayin is the spiritual in the physical. We all need spiritual and physical, like Shabbat, as well as just 6 days of work. And then chet is the elevated, beyond physical and spiritual. It's an elevated spiritual aspect of you, which is the soul. Blessed with free will, that's the soul. You have free will to choose between good and evil, truth and falsehood. Through these choices, the soul shapes, Through these choices, the soul shapes its actions. That was a tongue twister. Bringing favor and divine grace upon the human being. When you act and choose good over bad, your face changes. You could tell a good person from far. His soul is being expressed and you see it. Okay? So, a person whose name begins with the letter Chet, no one in this room, but never mind, someone on YouTube. A person with the letter Chet in their name has a warm personality. They have charm. And they have spiritual strength. Why? Because they literally, in their name, represents their soul. They tend to choose clearly between good and bad and enjoy advising, supporting, and helping others. Their intuitions are often right, and they may feel a strong need for spirituality at times of neglecting the physical or vice versa. Whenever they're too physical, they feel, I can't. Everyone feels that way, but someone with Chet at the beginning of their name really feels that very, very strongly. They may suddenly find themselves, this is the negative side, drawn strongly towards making poor choices, experiencing an intense urge to speak excessively, blah, 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 leading to unnecessary speech, or conversely becoming unusually quiet. To overcome these challenges, they must connect their true inner self. Seek growth through Torah study and Musar. I said that about every single person so far. Set every letter so far. Set health boundaries and surround themselves with positive friendships that inspire and uplift them. Okay, my point is that you have a soul in you and you have charm in you. When you make the right choices, that charm and that soul will be expressed on this world. And you have what we call an elevated being. That means don't let people tell you and dictate for you what you are. You've got an elevated piece in you that's beyond en mazal. You are beyond mazal. You're beyond your nature. You're beyond all of what they dictate to. You nurture your nature. You, as a soul, can overcome anything that other people tell you. Don't give me all those excuses that they do sometimes. There are no excuses. You have a soul. We can overcome and do tremendous things in this short life that we have here. Okay, we are done. Next time we'll start the class on time and then we could do another letter. But whatever, we're fine. Okay. Next week we're going to do something on Hanukkah. We'll have a class on Hanukkah. Okay, thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Any questions or it's a bit late now?